Welcome to another episode of Devs on Tape, this time from Berlin, from Apex Connect. And first things first, hello and welcome, Caro.
Oh, hi, Kai.
Nice to have you here again. Yes, and this will be our guest now, the introduction. You might guess who it is, but let me just introduce our guest as the last time we did. Our guest for today's podcast is a well-known developer and database expert in the tech industry, with more than a decade of experience working with Oracle technologies. With his extensive knowledge and experience, our guest is a valuable resource for anyone working with Oracle databases. Please welcome Chris Saxon.
Hello, thanks. That's an interesting introduction there, right? I think actually my career started, I don't know if you remember, well, Stephen Feuerstein was the original PL SQL expert, and in 2010, so 13 years ago, he started this website called the PL SQL Challenge, and at the time, every day he published a new quiz on PL SQL, you know, here's some code, what the result does it give, that kind of thing. And I was a player, and I'm kind of competitive, so I took part, and actually I did pretty well. They had like quarterly playoffs, and I finished second or third in one of them, which I was quite happy about. But then I decided I didn't just want to play, I wanted to actually create content. So I pitched him the idea of we'd have a quiz on database design, you know, creating tables, indexes, that kind of thing. And he said, yeah, go ahead, go do it. And I was like, I've got to do this now, right? So I went ahead and created this weekly quiz. So, you know, in my spare time before work, I would come up with a new one. And did that for, I don't know, must be at least a year, a bit more than a year, I think. And then Stephen joined Oracle in that time, and he formed the developer advocate team. And he put a tweet out saying he was hiring. And I saw the tweet, and I was like, oh, I've got to try for this, right? And so I applied and somehow made it through. Like, I had a lot of interviews. It was at least 6, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. 6 interviews just for this one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, because I had an interview with Stephen, obviously, and then there's like the HR interview. And I actually had 2 of those because originally it was advertised as a job in the US. So I was interviewed by someone in California and on HR, but because I'm based in the UK, I have to be employed by the UK division, right? You know, and so I had this basically the same interview by someone in in the UK, and then who else? There was I'm trying to think, Herman, Keith, and Chris Rice, and then finally Tom Kite interviewed me as well, and so that at least 7. I feel like I'm forgetting someone. So there's a lot of interviews for that. Somehow made it through and kind of got the job, you know, working for Oracle, which was, you know, pretty impressive. But
so it was worth it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think it's, you know, having established a relationship with Stephen through the PL SQL Challenge, which has morphed into the Dev Jam, he kind of knew me, and I think, you know, that it didn't get me the job, but it at least meant he looked at my CV a bit more seriously, right? You know, if I had just applied, would I have made it? I don't know, right? If I'd not been involved in taking part with Stephen. So I was involved in the community, so I was never actually an ace. Well, I did recently, so Alex Knighton and Patrick Burrell recently published a book with modern database programming. I forget the exact title, but it's how to get the best out of SQL and PL SQL using modern techniques. And I did write the foreword for that, so there's like 1 or 2 pages. But
this is exactly what we meant.
Of course,
right? So maybe we just rename this episode to "Do Not Trust Completely on ChatGPT." And this is you meet like you need a kind of you need to be careful to what you're reading in the internet and putting it into an intro for podcast, right? But yes, at least we can. I think we're on the same page when we say that you are a very valuable resource for the community. And I think when I started working with Apex and Oracle stuff, I was just watching your videos, right? Because I think it felt like you made one video a day. It felt like that because you did so many videos. How did you start with making those? I think they were pretty funny in the beginning. Like you had so many interesting ideas. So how did you start with that?
Yeah, well, I think going back to when I started this job working for Stephen, part of what he wanted us to do was to kind of reach out to developers and just kind of create interesting content and, like you say, create things that not only teach people but also something fun, something that then you're not just watching it because you have to, right? So I was just trying different things, and hopefully some of them worked and some of them didn't. But I think that was kind of what the goal we set out to do, and it sounds like it's worked to some degree at least, right? But yeah, we got like film equipment, he got cameras, and we got lights, and this was nearly 10 years ago now, so 8 years ago. And this, so before, home working in Zoom and everyone got their home set up. So I already had all the lights and stuff. The
4K video, like a very good microphone and everything's. Are you on the radio station right now? Why are you sounding so nice? Yeah. So did you have any like goals or things that you need to record 4 videos a month or something like that? Or was it completely free for you to see how many content things you can do?
Yeah, we never kind of we didn't have official like KPI targets, right? We didn't kind of set those like explicit goals. I kind of had personal goals where it's like I'd try and create a blog post and a video each month. So which I mostly stuck to, and attend roughly one conference a month as well. Which on the one hand doesn't sound a lot, but it quickly fills up your time, right? And I'm sure you appreciate trying to make the podcast. It sounds like not much, but actually it quickly fills up to be a lot of time, right?
So if we just publish one episode in 2 weeks, it's pretty hard to meet the expectation to have it online in midnight in this time and have all the guests in place and topics we can talk about. I mean, we have like 35 episodes right now, I think, and at some point we don't know what we can talk about still. So just the two of us, because we already talked about presentation stuff, like community stuff, and so we are very depending on our guests. So again, we are very happy that you said yes to us and joining us in the podcast episode this time. Okay, so you don't have any KPIs for the recording of YouTube videos. It's still like that, right? It's still like that. These days I'm getting a bit more involved in the actual product development side, right? Being a bit more product managery and doing more kind of internal stuff. So I still create videos, host the office hours session regularly. So every month, it's like, the idea is it's an online, we're all used to it now, that we set this up in 2018. I can't remember. It was a couple of years before the pandemic. So it was kind of, people weren't really used to it then, but I think now we're kind of more used to being the virtual thing. So every month I'm still creating, or pretty much every month I'm still creating a new session, explaining some feature of Oracle database. People can ask their questions about it, hopefully get some discussion as well. And I think particularly when a lot of people are stuck at home, I think it's useful to kind of have that link to actually be in touch with people, right? It's a tough time,
I actually, the office hours are also uploaded to YouTube, so you can rewatch them. So everybody who doesn't know it, now you know it, watch them, because some videos have very low view count, so you should watch them. They're really good. And about your own YouTube channel, I've seen that you uploaded the last video, I think 2 years ago. YouTube says it was 2 years ago.
How did that happen, Chris?
So I think, because I started doing, so YouTube have really got the thing, they're shorts, like the 60-second videos, which they're really pushing, but they kind of So I've actually done a bunch, at least 10 of those, more, but they kind of categorize those differently, right?
Okay.
So I have created videos, but they're not videos, they're shorts,
Yeah, okay.
right? And
okay.
so I think that's part of YouTube trying to, figure out how they combat TikTok and stuff,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So they class them a bit differently. So, there was 3 I released just a couple of months. No, it must have been last month, just before Easter, right? But they, like I say, they're more short form, and it's something. The idea is cover one thing quickly, give people a brief introduction, understand or get the concept. Whereas the longer videos are, explain a bit more fully. Okay, it's got to try and meet people with the content they need. Sometimes you just want the 60 seconds, here's the overview, what is it? Other times you need like the 5 or 10 minutes. This is a bit more detail. I want to understand how do I create an explain plan, and here's the various ways. And then some other times we need like the more deep dive, like hour-long presentation style, where we get really into the real details, nitty-gritty. Yeah, it works in this, be aware of that flag. So that people have, the content they need at the time they need it, hopefully, right?
Yeah, I've seen lately on LinkedIn, for example, you posted a lot of content and other
Yes.
stuff. So I thought maybe you would also put it in a newer or current form on YouTube or so. Or is it planned?
Yeah, so, well, that's the thing. I've been doing daily tips, and actually it started as the Twitter account, SQL Daily. So pretty much since I started, when I joined Oracle, every day I post a new tip about SQL, and it's something super basic. If you're inserting blah blah blah, and it's it has to fit in a tweet, so it has to be quite specific. And so I've kept doing that, and then with the changes that we've all seen with Twitter, I was like, well, I probably need to diversify a bit and not rely on one platform just because who knows what's going to happen there. So I started posting them on LinkedIn as well, and people seem to like them, find them useful. So, but I've got these little kind of animated GIFs, so they're not videos as such. And it's trying to figure out how do I combine these, and if I create a longer presentation, what can I chop up and pull out into individual parts, and do things like that. So they all kind of feed together, and basically every Friday morning I sit down and like go through, spend a couple of hours putting these tips together, and schedule them for the next week.
Yeah.
So that's my kind of routine there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That would have been the next question. If you every day you wake up and just I have to write a tip, or just like make 30 tips and then schedule them for every day.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's kind of I realized quite quickly that doing it every single day is impractical, particularly traveling somewhere like Berlin, and you're in an airport, and it's not always practical, to get it done every specific day. So yeah, like I say, I schedule time. It's usually Friday morning, because I think that's quite a good end of the week. You can wrap stuff up, and just schedule the week ahead. If I know I'm going to be traveling or got holiday, I'll schedule a bit further in advance. But it's always the thing. It's like, I'll sit down. What have people asked me this week? What have I struggled with? What's sometimes it's like scroll through the documentation. Oh, I haven't talked about that for a long time. Maybe I should do something about that. Right?
So how many tips did you already published?
I mean, in total, it's over 2,000, right?
Wow.
Right. Okay. Yeah. It's
and there's still tips left, right?
Yeah, there's still tips left. I mean, I might have reused some slightly. I wouldn't say they were all necessarily completely new, but it's particularly when you just in the 240 characters, it's not like you can say a huge amount. So it's there's still stuff I haven't covered, and as we've seen with the new release of 23C coming out, there's going to be a whole bunch more tips. There's always stuff, always new ways, not only new things, but also try and find new ways of explaining it, right? Because I think I try and make things, as I said, not just inform people, but inspire and encourage them. And I'm always thinking, right, well, how can I explain the concept better? You know, how can I help it make sense to more people? So I might, you know, have a picture one time, and another time I'll have a slightly different picture or some code. So, you know, hopefully different people, it'll resonate with someone, right? Yeah.
So if you keep posting the tips, you might combine them to a book, and then our ChatGPT is correct again then.
Yeah, maybe. Well, it's, you know, I've got the tips, and, you know, I still blog reasonably regularly. So, you know, so certainly there's certainly enough content to fill a book. It's just combining it all and making sense of it. So maybe one day, but you know.
I mean, put the number of the tip in front of that, and then refer to it when someone asks you. So, buy my book, tip 1433 is the solution for your problem. Maybe
that's good. Maybe that's what I have to do.
So have fun with my idea.
Yeah. Thanks, Kai. So I have to put your name on the front. Right?
Of course you have. Of course you have.
Yeah, exactly.
So if I'm introducing myself, I can say I'm an author, right?
Yeah.
You're already an author.
No. I would not call me for just a few pages for that.
Well, do you also do some stuff on Ask Tom?
Yes. Yeah.
So do you already use this? Use my tip. Number 2. Here's the answer.
Quite often answering questions on Ask Tom is what gives me the ideas for the tip. It is, right?
Okay.
It kind of works the other way around, I think, rather than referring to the tip. But again, it's like, I'm not sure. I must have answered over 1,000 questions on Ask Tom now. I've lost count. But there are topics and themes which come up, and every now and again, you're kind of like, well, I've already answered that. Just look at this answer over there, or I've written a blog post about that. Look at that. But it always surprises me that people do come up with like new questions, right? Stuff which it's similar to something that exists, but it's different enough that actually it's like, okay, there is something worth answering here. It's not well explained in other content that I've seen, that kind of thing. So it still surprises me that, you know, having done this for however many years, you still get those new things coming along.
I mean, at least when we have a look at the new version of the database, right? So if you have so many new functionalities you can use, I mean, there might not be that many. There might not that many questions about the Boolean data type, but I can imagine that MLE and the other new features might lead many people to ask new questions about that. Yes. So when we combine everything you are doing, right? So you're posting on LinkedIn, on Twitter, you are recording videos or shorts or something. Is there still time left you use for customers?
Customers.
So, I mean, is it on your daily schedule that on the main part of your day you're working for customers or with customers, and then some time of the day you are using for content creation?
So it's kind of, I don't have specific time set aside for customers. It's more kind of ad hoc. So if people want to reach out, you know, it does happen. Sometimes customers say, can you give us a new features presentation, or can you talk to us about SQL tuning or something like that? But that's kind of more an ad hoc, and it's like, okay, I'll see what's in my calendar and can I fit it in my schedule? So I think one of the things Ask Tom, really, people asking questions there are almost always customers, right? So, I mean, they're using Oracle database or Oracle products. So I think that is customer interaction there. I think it is always good to actually get to talk to customers directly, because it's like there's always times it's like, well, what are you trying to do here? And it's like, until you sit and actually chat with them, you don't really understand, right? But I think it's you know, if people listening want to you know, get in touch and want me to talk through a problem or explain something with them, I'm more than welcome to. But yeah, it's not a scheduled part of my day.
And do you get a lot of emails from customers or users?
Because I try and funnel things through Ask Tom,
Yeah.
right? I mean, as Connor was saying in his talk this morning, there's so many ways of getting in touch with people. It's like, if you've got like 10 different channels, it's hard to stay on top of that. So, yes, people do contact me by email, and I'll try and be helpful. But if it's a detailed question, particularly if I think it's something that would help others, I try and direct them to Ask Tom, because that's why Tom set the site up originally. It wasn't just to help, if you've got a problem and help you specifically, but also other people probably have a similar problem, right? And help more generally. So yes, it does happen, but it can be a bit chaotic, and it's like trying to stay on top of things, but it's life, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I always find Ask Tom, the website, when I'm searching for something I have problem with.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So you also do this whole dev gym
Yes.
you talked about.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, because I've checked your profile there,
Mm-hmm.
and there are many quizzes you
Yes.
set up. It's like it shows 633.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, 33.
So
Is it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, yeah. And so many answers, so like 35,000 people took their quizzes. How does it feel?
Yeah.
How do you provide so many quizzes? Just quizzes. We have also other categories.
Yeah. I think that's, again, well, I mean, that goes back to like 10 years now, right? And I started doing, well, you think one a week for 10 years, there's 500, plus some extras every now and again, one-off or specific topics there. So yeah, it's kind of it's a bit crazy how it accumulates over time, right? It's something you think, oh, I'll just do one, and each individual one maybe doesn't have that big an impact, but if you keep doing things and keep repeating and keep trying, like I say, the numbers add up, and can be quite impressive in a while, and in the end, right? So
Many things. So we also have workouts there and classes. Could you provide? I don't know. Actually, in Germany, I think there's. It's not very known, the dev gym.
Right.
Even if we always put slides of it into our presentations. But could you explain in short words what it is and what the different categories are?
Sure. So, like I say, it started as the PL SQL challenge, and at the time it was purely about PL SQL when it started, and has expanded since, and it covers Oracle database generally. And we've had other people bring in things about Java and Apex, but the core content's still around database, and we called it the dev gym because it's the idea. It's like training, physical training, right? You go, you lift weights or you stretch and whatever to get stronger. And the idea here is like you practice your development skills through quizzes, right? And it's a way to kind of just train. And certainly, I remember from when I was actually playing regularly, testing yourself and trying these things, you kind of build up more familiarity. It helps build your skills, and it's like, oh, okay, that works this way, and I understand I should use exceptions in that way, kind of thing. So that was kind of the concept, and it started out, it was just quizzes, multiple choice quizzes, but we wanted to kind of package them up a bit better. So the idea here was, again, with the gym concept, you go to the gym for a workout. You might lift some weights, or you lift different weights for your arms and your legs, and then you might do some stretches or something in time on the treadmill. So the idea there was we have a workout which there would be quizzes at the core of it, right? That's still the core thing, but quite often we might attach other resources like links to blog posts or videos which relate to those quizzes. So you say, I want to learn more about handling exceptions in PL SQL. So you got workout, and there might be a couple of blog posts, maybe a live SQL tutorial, that kind of thing to walk you through it. And then some quizzes to actually train and test yourself. Did I understand what I just read? Did I actually get it? And so those are the workouts. And then classes are kind of a bit more of a structured series of workouts. So we've
Okay.
we've got lots of workouts on some quite niche topics, but our classes are, the core ones are still getting databases for developers, getting started with SQL. And the idea with those is it's a series of modules where teach you how to run SQL on Oracle database, right? And each one of those, there'll be a video or two explaining concepts. So I'll say, this is what a table is and so on. And then the live SQL tutorial, so you can actually try it out. Because I think quizzes are great for kind of helping you know what a feature is. But I think a lot of us actually need to type it and try it and do something. So live SQL's like just a browser-based interactive environment. So you got the tutorial, you can walk through that, you can run some examples, write some code, try them out, and then some questions at the end. You're like, did you understand it? So we've got we're a bit more kind of structured about those, so there's fewer of those because there's more effort. We want to kind of, like I say, guide people through the process a bit more. But it's all completely free. You just need your Oracle free Oracle single sign-on account. You can sign up, go try them out. You can take individual quizzes if you want. You can take a whole class. You can take a workout. We've got a huge library. I mean, there's several thousand quizzes on the site now. So if you want to know something about SQL, PL SQL, Oracle database, and some stuff about some of the other related technologies, there's a good chance there's a quiz, a workout, or a course to help you understand and work through that.
Yeah.
So how long does it take to write like the first quiz? I think databases for developers week 1, quiz 1.
Yeah.
How long does it take to write one of those quizzes compared to a blog post, for example?
It's one of those. My process is quite kind of iterative. I'll kind of come up with an idea and I think, okay, I'm gonna write a quiz on creating a table. Right? How can I make that interesting? So a couple of things I need to decide: what is the topic and what's the difficulty, right? So for you mentioned databases for developers, so those are introductory. It's for beginners, right? So the quizzes can't be super complicated. So I'll create it and I think, here's some examples of creating a table which will actually run, which will work. And then I have to look at them and I think, well, is this too hard? Is it too difficult? And we have a process so we can actually, you can get the code from the choices and copy paste them to run them and see whether they worked. And it's some of them, if it's something I know and I'm really familiar with, I can write them fairly quickly, like, half an hour. But I think as well, there's something about explaining stuff generally. You understand it better. And it's amazing the number of times I think, I know how this works. I'll write some quizzes, come up with 2 or 3, some choices, and then I run one of the choices and it doesn't work how I expected it to work. And it's like, oh, okay, I didn't misunderstood something somewhere. And that's quite often where the time comes in, is like, okay, is that, what have I misunderstood there? And how can I make that part of the question or help other people learn from what I've learned, right? So, I mean, the fastest is probably like half an hour or so, but it can take, particularly like say, if I find something I didn't expect, it can take a couple of hours or longer, but it's usually quicker than a blog post, but it depends, right?
And have you already set up some quizzes or classes about the new features of 23C?
We haven't done yet, but certainly we will be doing. There's a lot of cool new SQL features, and there's a lot of little features in SQL which things like select statements without from. You don't need to do from dual anymore, and it's nice, but it's pretty small. You can't make a presentation around that, right? But it's good content for a quiz. Which of these statements will work? And you're like, oh, you don't need from dual anymore. So certainly that will be coming. Don't know exactly when that will be out, but we will be bringing that sometime soon. Yes.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I've also seen in your statistics.
No.
Okay. What's that? Yeah, go on.
What happened, Chris?
No. their class for the database for developers foundations was already took by 65,000 people. So it's really impressive.
Yeah.
And did you also get some feedback then? Do people write you about this?
Yeah, so we get we have some feedback built into the site, so people can submit their comments, and some people do reach out directly and send things as well. So I mean, I noticed that milestone ticked over recently as well. It's like, wow, that's quite impressive, because we still get over 200 people a week sign up for that course, right? And it's like, and I mean, I'll mention it in podcasts or something like this, but I don't spend like a lot of effort marketing it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, wow. And it just shows if you create something kind of good, and it can still exist and be there for a long time. But yeah, it's I've had a lot of good comments. I think as well, we kind of give like a digital certificate as well you get when you complete the course. And every now and again, this will get picked up by the sites which kind of list free courses that give you a certificate, right? And every now and again, we'll get a big bunch of new people come along, and then my LinkedIn will go mad. People like, I completed this course by Chris Saxon, and I just keep getting mentioned. And it's like, okay, and it's like, all right, yeah. I mean, particularly, I think it was last January, I think. We had, I don't know, 2,000 people in a week sign up or something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that week it was just like, thanks, Chris Saxon. But it was like, oh, okay. It was just like constant, bing, bing.
Yeah.
All right. So it's cool, right?
Yeah, in preparation of my last talk about performance tuning for database developers, I also took your class
cool.
about performance in databases for developers.
Yeah.
And I've seen there are only 10,000 students took that course. So when you hear it, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You should take the course. It was pretty good, and the videos were really, really nice and funny, and easily explained.
When Caro started to mention your statistics, I was thinking that she's referring your own classes you took. So when I have a look at your classes taken, I see that you have only 74% correct points on your own quiz. Is it right? Well, that was the way I am referring to what happened, Chris.
Yeah. Well, no, I think part of it is obviously I like to, after publishing the course, actually take it myself to just validate the content. And sometimes I want to, sometimes I just whiz through and just kind of click and without paying attention, but also I want to test what people get for different scores, because we actually give slightly different certificates out depending on what percentage correct you get, right? So I forget exactly, but we've got, if you just complete it below 80 whatever percent, it just says well done, you finished. And if you get higher and higher percentages, correctness is like certificate of excellence for this. So I needed to check things like that work properly as well. So but I know my own content, really, honestly.
Didn't want to make you. This was the last bad question.
It's fine.
There are another statistics about workouts taken. No, just kidding. So you're creating so much content, and I think it's pretty worth it to have a look at the Dev Gym.
Yeah.
It's an Apex application, by the way. So listeners should have a look into this application, and you can find it on devgym.oracle.com. I think it's the shortest version. I don't know if there's another shortcut of the URL or something.
No, it's just like say devgym.oracle.com, and it's freely available. I think one thing I haven't mentioned is like when we talked about how the process for joining Oracle, and I created quizzes for that. We still get people from the community creating content, right? Kim Berg-Hansen, the ACE director, and he's actually an author. He's a real author, like me, right? He's been creating SQL quizzes for years. And we also had a new guy, Anthony Harper, join the author team recently. He's created a bunch of content. So, there's two aspects. If you just want to learn, train, take part. But if you I've learned far more writing quizzes than I ever did taking them. So it's a way to help you learn as well.
Yeah.
And if people want to submit quizzes to be part of the platform, we're more than welcome. And, you know, things like the ACE program do recognize, you know, these contributions.
Yeah.
So if people want to get involved, then please do. You know, it's the idea is it is a community platform, and we want to, you know, help not just people understand stuff, but build a bit of a community and hopefully get people involved and using and understanding these technologies as well.
So you can even go into the or reach the leaderboards if you're pretty good, I think.
Yes.
I had a quick look into that, and it's pretty interesting that you see colleagues of yourself.
Yes.
So I'm having to reach out to my colleagues and why he's so good in that. But, no, it's pretty fine. So if you go to the leaderboards on the website, you can see weekly database rankings, logic rankings, past tournament rankings. Then you have like a prestige if you get this trophy here, first place in championship and so on. I think this is something nice too. So pretty nice to our listeners. Have a look at the Dev Gym. Pretty good content for free, everything for free, and yeah, a good place to go.
Yeah, also the live SQL feature or side of Oracle is also pretty nice. If you want to show something, you can save scripts there, you can reuse them, you can also install some predefined scripts, etc. So it's pretty cool if you want to quickly show something to somebody, or just to set up something to test it quickly.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's worth mentioning on that, because one of the things that we always say on Ask Tom is like, if you're trying to do something, give us a test case. Actually, you know, show us the actual code you're running so we can test and validate and see what's going on. And because you can create share scripts, save and share scripts on Live SQL, we will prioritize people. If you've got a Live SQL script that shows your problem, you can paste a link and Ask Tom to it, and we'll prioritize things, because partly it makes our lives easier, right? Because we can just download the script, run it, and go, okay, I see what you're trying to do here, and make it validate it. So, you know, it just helps us. The more you can do, we can then help more people, right? If we're spending less time, right? Oh, I've got to create a table and so on. So it's not only is it somewhere you can just try something, but if you are wanting to submit something to Ask Tom or any forum, really, you know, you can save it, share the link, and then other people. It just makes it easier for people to help you, right?
So now you know you have to provide live SQL links to be prioritized.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, cool. I think it's time to go to the categories.
So we didn't tell you that before.
No.
We have like 3 different categories. We are asking every of our guests in the end of the podcast, and we have 3 different categories in there. Like the first one is hypothetically.
Okay.
The second one is in private. So there are no bad or worse questions today. So, and consumption is the third category.
Yeah.
So we have like 2 or 3 questions per category, and then the listeners can like compare between different people how they answer that.
Right.
So let's start with the hypothetically question. The first one: what would you like to invent or create in the technology sector?
What would I like to invent or create in the technology center? I think I'm not sure. I think technology is quite pervasive. You know, it's all around us, and we don't kind of see it. And I think I'm maybe not so much interested in actually creating technology specifically. I mean, I like technology. I mean, I've always been into software development, but at the same time, I think it always has to have a purpose, right? I'm more, what can we use it for? But also talking about things like inspiring people. So one of the things, something we are actually creating on the Dev Gym, and we've run a little beta for, is probably most people are familiar with Wordle today, like the SQL, guess the word. We're trying to come up with a SQL Wordle, right?
Oh,
Guess the
cool.
SQL statement. So that's something we're actually working on. So is it hypothetical? Hopefully it's something that will be there. And again, something a bit fun. And that will be something like Wordle. Each day there will be a new thing to guess. And, you know, pick the things that you want there. So it's, and it's not so much technology itself. It's like, how can it either do something, or how can it just be useful or interesting or fun, right? So I think the SQL Wordle is the thing that we're, hopefully it won't be hypothetical. Maybe by the time this actually is broadcast, we might be live with this, but we'll see, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I have another question of the category hypothetically.
Yeah.
We should change that.
Yeah.
It's too hard.
It's pretty hard for a German speaker. If you could undo one technological trend in recent years, what would it be?
Ooh, undo one recent. I mean, I think the blockchain is probably something where I think it's finally reached the point where people realize that it was kind of overhyped and things like that. I think personally, I think cryptocurrencies, I don't see the value in them. I know a lot of people kind of, it's going to be the future and it was going to change everything. And for a whole bunch of reasons, that hasn't happened, right? So that's probably one thing. I think a lot of people put a lot of time and energy into that, and it's kind of distracted from solving, other problems. So yeah, if that was something I could undo, it would probably be that.
Yeah, next category, in private.
Yeah, okay.
Are you satisfied with your work-life balance? So if you're doing content creation, working with different people at Oracle, so I think you're working very many hours, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that's been quite good about this job is I've had the flexibility to kind of set my own hours, and I think I've got a couple of, well, they're not quite so young now, but my kids are like 10 and 7. When I started this job just before my youngest was born, right? And there was something about, okay, I need to finish at about 6, maybe 7 o'clock at night, so that I can put them to bed and say goodnight and things like that. So I've been pretty good about kind of saying, okay, I finish at this time, and sticking to that as much as possible. It's not always practical because, like, working with people in the US, sometimes I have meetings later in the evening, but in general, they're pretty good about respecting that. So I think however much time you set yourself, there's always more to do, right? You never get to the end of the day and think, I've done everything, that's it, I've finished, right? So I think it's important to kind of set a limit for yourself and say, I will finish at time X, whatever you decide that is, and just make everything fit that time, right? And like I say, the forcing feature of having to put my kids to bed was really helpful for that, because that was an hour where you kind of step away from the computer completely to have dinner, read them some stories and things like that. And it's now they're older, it doesn't require quite so much hands-on effort as it did when they were tiny, but it still gives you that break. And then after that, it's kind of late in the evening, like, do I really want to start working again now?
Yeah, sure.
It's like, so I think I'm glad I'm in a job or a position where the company respects that and are able to kind of say, okay, these are the hours that you're going to work, and as long as we're flexible when we need to be, then we can work within that. But I think it's useful just to kind of say, like I say, I could work till midnight every night, and would I get more done? Probably a little bit, probably not that much more, right? And certainly after a certain point, even if you get more done, I'm sure the quality starts going down as well, right?
Yeah,
so,
sure.
Yeah.
So, but all in all, you think it's working pretty fine right now? So.
Yeah, it seems to be. It's kind of working pretty fine. I think there's still the open question of like how much traveling that's happening, because prior to the pandemic, I went to about 10 conferences a year. Wow. So I'd be away from home maybe a week a month on average, right? And I certainly wouldn't want to be away more than that. Recently, this is only the second time this year I've been out, about an event. It's still deciding what the right balance is there. So it's something we'll figure out and evolve as time goes on. But overall, yeah, I'm pretty happy. Yeah.
Nice.
I have also a question from a private stuff.
Yeah.
Would you show us your screen time on the iPhone without blushing?
Oh, yeah, I think, I think I'm pretty good at. I mean, we can get it if you want. But, I think one of the other thing I do is like whenever I get a new device, I like just disable all notifications because every app wants to give you a notification, and I just disable them because then it's like the phone trying to get your attention, and it's like no, I want to focus on it, or I want to do other stuff. And I actually, when I'm working, certainly I find I do my best work in the morning usually. So I actually leave the phone in another room because then it just minimizes distractions. So I wouldn't say that I spend no time. I can like my daily Wordle fix, and I play words with friends as well. So I play against my dad, and so I maybe spend a bit more time on those than perhaps I should, but still, I don't think I'd spend. I hopefully fairly healthy relationship, right?
So okay, for our listeners, Chris is not blushing at all. So he's telling the truth, and he's very okay with that. All right, next category, consumption. So I mean, this was already in the answer from the question before, but how do you deal with the growing flood of information via various channels like news, information from every like TV, radio, mails, and whatever? How do you deal with those many things? So turning off notifications is the first thing, right?
Yes, I think that's the big thing is turning off notifications. I think because, like I say, because I schedule that time in the morning to do real work, right? And then I allow myself time after I've had lunch to kind of like check up on news, read blogs, and do kind of that kind of catching up on things. And my alarm in the morning is the radio, so that plays. Comes on just before the news, so I get some like the daily news through that. But it's always trying to figure out. I think people are always like, why aren't you on Channel X, or it's like Mastodon was the new thing. It's like why you should sign up for that. It's like, well, who's there, and maybe if the community as a whole starts moving there and a lot of people in the community are there, then maybe I'll move over. My from what I've heard, my sense is not enough people have moved to make it worthwhile. But it's trying to just focus and kind of say, okay, I'll pay attention to Twitter, LinkedIn, my YouTube channel, and maybe a couple other things, and email, right? And then just try and ignore the other stuff as much as possible, right? It doesn't always work, but do what you can, right?
Yeah. Okay, so the last question today is another question from the consumption category. How do you consume news and new knowledge? You already talked about Twitter and LinkedIn, etc. But what do you use to get some new knowledge? Or
that's a good question about how do I get new knowledge. I think one of the things about the like those daily tips that I was talking about. One, I try and schedule 1 or 2 tips each week where I've just kind of created some example code myself, but I also try and share something other people have done. So I kind of look at blogs and see what people have published, and I think, okay, that's interesting. That's a good example of SQL functions or whatever. I'll share that. So part of what takes the time of coming up with those tips is seeing what other content people have created and like who's done it, and researching a bit about them as well. So that time on the morning, it's not just creating the content itself, it's also seeing what's there, reading things like Hacker News or the other aggregators like the ACE program. So blogs.oracle.com/ACE, that blog, they've been pretty good. Each week or every couple of weeks, they produce a summary of all the blog posts or content that ACEs have produced. So I'll skim through that and see what's new, what looks interesting. So again, it's kind of setting some time aside there. And, it's also just being aware. You know, occasionally you're scrolling through Twitter, you'll notice things come up, and certainly if you notice 2 or 3 people starting to talk about something, it's like, oh, okay, maybe this is interesting. Maybe we need to look in that a bit more detail. So it's partly just setting that aside, that time, and seeing what people are writing. And I think it's important to recognize what the community have done. We talk, you mentioned about being involved in the ACE program as an employee. I think I want to help share what people have done. Doesn't even if I somehow was magically able to work all day every day without stopping, there's a limit to how much anyone can individually do, and it's more about okay, someone's produced a really nice detailed blog post on using JavaScript in the database when that comes out, and so I'll skim through, try and find the 1 or 2 key pieces of information about it, write the tip, share the link, and tag the author about it to kind of just give them credit and recognize that there's a lot of people. I'm sure a lot of people listening to this will be creating content, and it's good to have that recognition and validation, right? And so I just want to share the love, right?
Right. So just to wrap things up, the overview of the content ACEs are producing, this website. Devs on Tape is occasionally on there too. I think there's multilingual stuff, like even German episodes are in there. And our listeners should have a look on that. You don't need to have an access or a special access to that, or to be an ACE to watch those information. It's a combined thing from experts, and I think it's worth a view. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Caro. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
And have a nice day in the rest of the conference.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.